Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays on Spaced Out Radio. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for our archives. Now broadcasting from our Mile High Radio Clubhouse on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, December 29th, Sunday, December 30th, for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a rockin' week, an awesome day, and an even better evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from beautiful Fylth, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, 99.1 FM, Noonan, Georgia, 107.7 UPRN Louisiana, Revolution Radio, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. You guys don't forget to check out our website at spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the Encounter Online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we'll be talking to Miss Corrine De Winter, and let's see. Corrine De Winter had her first experience. Let me open it up really quick. It closed off on me for some reason. Her first Ouija board session with her mother at 13 years old to her recent graduation from mediumship classes at the Cara Center. She strives to find truth in the midst of life's illusions and to help others on their journeys. Hey, Corrine, thanks so much for being on.
Oh, sure, Tessa. It's good to be here again. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. How are you?
I'm okay. Just floating through the ethers, you know?
Right? Well, I like to fly by the seat of my pants, and you're floating along, so maybe we can carry each other.
That would be great. So I want to ask you right off the bat, Tessa, have you been having some strange dreams lately?
I have. Very vivid and very strange.
Can you tell me about a couple of them, if you don't mind?
Okay, so let's go to last night. Rewinding to last night. Okay, so I have my family and my little kitty Lynx, and then I have a roommate that lives with us, and in exchange for rent, he's supposed to do housework, which he hasn't been doing for like the past month. And so last night I had a dream where for some reason I opened up one of the trash canisters outside, and there's a couple jackets, and there's all this silverware and these different pots that have been missing and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, why are you just throwing this stuff away? Just assuming that, he's been drinking as usual and that's what's going on. What was the other one? Oh, I'm trying to think. It was something to do with my kids. I think it was the way they fight and stuff. My youngest daughter, she's the one that has the past life experiences, and I think she was carrying me through more of that stuff, but I was more focused on, man, I'm so upset with this roommate that I'm having these dreams about him, and then, how dreams just kind of fade away unless you record them in like a dream journal or whatnot. But it was my daughter carrying me through more of her battle experiences, because first time I caught her doing the past life regression, she was tying the lanyard around her leg and saying at 1.5 years old, "Mom, I have to tie this off or I'm going to bleed out." Not too much longer after that, she was telling me about how she was an older guy wearing glasses with blonde hair, and he was in the military. He was like a military nurse or something. And then last night's dream, I think I was with her, like a coworker or something, working through these battles and trying to help people and mend them and stuff, because I get woken up several times during the night due to different things, but that was one of them, was working with her with these people that were just torn apart from battles and trying to mend them back together, and her as not herself, but as the older male figure, but I knew it was her through like her spirit, so that was interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And we have spoken a little bit about, everyone's saying my mic is bad right now. I don't know what I sound like to them, but they're saying that they can't hear very well. So
okay, let me turn you up.
Okay.
Okay, you're turned up.
Okay, I don't know, is that any better, you guys? I don't know. So we have spoken about your little girl before, and I would totally grill her, Tessa, on what is going on. Like what happened. Like, have you asked her a bunch of questions about that?
I haven't, but I've told her, like, when she asked, well, do you remember me being the older man with the glasses and stuff? And I told her, I don't remember, but I believe you, and anything you need to share with me, I will. But if you're saying I need to question her more, I will definitely do that and see if she does remember anything else, because I'm so interested. Like, I've never had past life experiences, and I want to know more.
Oh, I know, definitely. I would, because, by the time she's about 6 or 7, she's going to lose those memories completely. I mean, I won't say completely. That doesn't happen for all kids, but usually it does. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you want to take advantage of it now,
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a lot cheaper than doing the past life regression through different psychics and such.
Right. So I am happy that you agreed to have my friend on. He's a good friend of mine tonight, and to talk about some new energy information. A little bit of it has to do with the purple plates. Other things are just new revelations that he's come across. So thank you for letting us do that.
No worries, and I'm so excited. And what is your friend's name?
His name is Jim Moses.
Hello, Jim Moses. Great to have you.
Thanks, Tessa. I appreciate it. And at some point, I can speak to the events your daughter's having with the past life experiences. I actually have a Civil War resonance that I identified quite some time ago, and it kind of follows. I don't know whether or not you've been able to determine from what she's had to say as to what period this goes back to, but what Corrine is alluding to with respect as far as this whole notion of new ideas, I have developed basically a completely different approach to physics that speaks very much to the whole notion of quote-unquote past lives. Can talk a little bit more about that, but with respect to how it all relates to Tesla, my insights based on some research and just contemplation, I think Tesla was most concerned as he recognized that, cumulative exposure to a variety of different types of electromagnetic frequencies would end up causing deterioration of what I refer to as constructive entanglement. It's what allows for any system, whether it be organic or inorganic, but especially organic, because the materials involved are highly reactive. It's what allows it to maintain the structure. And Tesla, I think, through experiments, was able to determine that based on its crystalline structure, it's possibly related to electrolytic considerations, that aluminum was best at being able to maintain, being a reference point for any particular system structure, because that really is a lot of what allows for the material realm to exist, is this constant information being fed back. Basically, for lack of a better term, the origins of consciousness is a feedback system in the view of a lot of different people over the years. It has been, and I think that Tesla realized that the most important consideration with respect to his own inventions, the things he was constructing, was to make sure that he could end up allowing for the least amount of deterioration, corrosion, so forth and so on, as a result of being exposed to what were some pretty powerful electromagnetic frequencies. Alternating current certainly would be something that would have this kind of an effect, direct current, so forth and so on. But it's part of a larger picture, which basically, I can get a little bit more into that as to what exactly the nature of existence is. It's really, the extrapolation is amazing, and it's more simple than I ever really realized in the past. I was headed in this direction, but when I got there, it was like, of course, this explains it. So if you'd like, I could talk a little more about that too.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, the problem that we have in terms of the way we view physics, science in general, has made kind of, or let's put it this way, put far too much emphasis on the distinction between matter and energy, not looking at it as being basically a potential effect. Information really is what it comes down to, and that information is what ends up affecting the form that any particular system takes. If it's getting resonant information, it needs to find a way of being able to respond, which is what we call evolution. The successful response is what constitutes an evolutionary process, that that a system can reconcile the information, because otherwise something as simple as sunlight would end up threatening a system just because there was no way of it to evolve into something that would be able to take into context constantly receiving sunlight. In fact, one of the discoveries, a very, very important one that was made, or at least corroborated anyways, I'm not certain that other people have arrived at the same conclusion. A gentleman at the University of Washington by the name of Gerald Pollack, professor, has determined that the primary thing which allows for structure to be maintained in organic matter, or organic material, I should say, is infrared sunlight. And it basically allows for growth, expansion of a system. With respect to metabolic processes, that's what allows for moving around different materials. But in terms of the expansion, the morphological redistribution, distribution is a word that really comes into play here a lot. Sunlight is critical, and I think it may be at the root of why people who have very little exposure to it tend to be stunted. Something that some people are aware of with respect to being underground for long periods of time and in darkness, but there seems to be a correlation with respect to growth, and I think that is at the core of it.
Well, yeah, and kids that are born with these kidney defects where they're orange, a lot of times the medicine for that is put them in the sunlight, whether it's in the sunlight that's in your window or outside. Like, that's the best medicine to get them back up to par. I think it's something with the blood, but it does fix it. I did that with a couple of my kids, and I can't recall the name of it right now because I'm drawing a blank, but it did work. Putting them in sunlight for certain amounts of time during the day really brought them back to that healthy color instead of that, I think it was jaundice, that orangish color.
Yeah, yellow or orange. It can be, anything within that color spectrum, and a lot of it has to do with problems in terms of generating various types of enzymes related to blood and kidneys. Purification process. Blood, as Pollack has discovered, the reason why you can have the level of pressure within a very small space And of course, all blood cells are, there's a vortex in the middle. They're torus shaped, something that's well known amongst a lot of people that are looking at the patterns of distribution throughout not just nature, but even in the modern world with respect to what works best, what's most efficient. And the amount of research going on right now, the development of toroidal power systems is amazing. Randy Powell's development of Marco Rodin's work, who in turn had a system that he developed based upon toroidal cycles, vortexual cavitation and so forth, which, by the way, is at the root of gravity, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. It ended up demonstrating a over unity value of 20% more than any other type of engine or dynamo ever before, but this is not common knowledge. Hewlett-Packard was the one who did the testing on it. So with respect to what's on the horizon related to a lot of what we're talking about here, and Tesla certainly was one of the people that was involved in advancing these ideas, it changes a lot of things. The way we look at our lives, the way we look at the technology we have at our disposal, all of it with, again, if we're able to recognize it for what it is at a societal level, has the potential to simplify our lives in a lot of ways, really give us the opportunity to have a context we've never had in our lifetimes for sure, and I'm not sure that we ever have, with respect to the relationship. That's so much of it is about empowering the individual, us as individuals, as individuated expression. And what I was about to say with respect to past lives is that my belief, based on just looking at the microcosmic aspect, the simple act of throwing, and this is going to seem ridiculous perhaps to some people, if you throw a rock in a lake, you're changing the structure, the surface tension of the lake. You're also creating individual structures that all are related based upon the information that's, contained in the amount of velocity that the stone enters the water or whatever medium. If that information can be if it can be provided on a regular basis, then those structures are maintained and they're happening simultaneously. So what I'm about to say is, our lives, there aren't really past lives per se. They're all happening at the same time. We just are experiencing this particular reality because we're so much entangled with it. You know what I'm saying? But we're also aware of other realities. We may not be conscious of them, but our body, the fields that make up the information that's being transferred back and forth are aware of those other lives. And I know this is probably very radical.
Well, I think, Tessa, you do believe in the multiverse?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's so interesting because it's like, all right, so we know ourselves in this life, and but for instance, when we get deja vu or something, where, did I do this before? Do we know the same people in the other multiverses? So, I mean, there's millions of questions about what the hell's really going on and what time it is.
Right.
But it's so strange because, well, I mean, we have a hard enough time keeping up with this lifetime, right? So what the hell? I don't want to tackle the rest of them. But anyway, so who knows? There's so much we don't know about everything, about all kinds of supernatural, paranormal, spiritual, all this stuff. I mean, we're never going to really understand, but I'm beginning to understand a lot more than I was, say, like even 5 years ago. So, and I think other people are too. So it's very interesting, but yeah, past lives. So maybe we are these people. And how do we tap into these other lives and tap into the talents that our other selves have? You know what I mean? Like that's a real, well, I know how I would tap into it, but I don't know how whatever. You know how I am about mediums and talking to dead people, Tessa.
Right.
Can I interject for 1 second? Corrine did say the word I was about to get to. Yes, the multiverse is very much a reality if you look at it this way. There are any number of different environmental conditions that arise as a result of alterations to the information that's being provided. That provides a whole different set of physics in that particular microcosmic environment. And I'll use the analogy: if you play an instrument, this is the true string theory at work, proving out. If you play an instrument, you're going to change the media surrounding that instrument. So if anything, is in close proximity to the instrument, that is going to be it's going to be almost like another universe, a multiverse, that fly or flee or whatever else that's in, because it's so small relative to the vibrations, the resonance that's being produced. They're going to experience it much, much, much differently than we would, because we're larger and we already have a cognitive context for what's being produced by the instrument. That's the analogy that I make, and based upon what research I've done, the emergent science within the last 5 to 10 years, I'm pretty sure that the model that I'm proposing is close to quote unquote reality. Now, everybody's going to, or not everybody, but certain people, certain entities are going to experience it more differently than others, because they, based on their level of understanding, the experiences that they've had, the ability to find that context and then respond effectively. So much of that is driving how they manifest within a particular environment or multiverse, if you really, want to extrapolate somewhat. But I think that the big piece of all of this is that it really begins to create a consistency in the distribution of things throughout. You can point to almost every instance where this dynamic comes into play at the smallest level, subatomic, specifically from where I stand with respect to health concerns, all the way up to the cosmic, on the order of galaxies and universes. I think that the patterns of distribution are very similar. They may end up manifesting differently based upon wherever they are, and this gets in all sorts of things. Black holes, more accurately white holes, as Stephen Hawking was kind of communicated. He wasn't quite able to take that leap, but he probably came as close as anybody did. And the analogy that I came up with that's very interesting with respect to this whole notion of an information-based model is that if you're familiar at all with Einstein's theory of relativity, he postulated that at any point, any sort of mass approached the speed of light, it would be infinite, for lack of a better term. And what that simply means is it can't maintain a structure to constitute mass any longer. It can't reconcile the information at that speed. There's no way for it to be able to reconcile it efficiently enough, so it just cannot maintain the structure, which again steps down to so much below that would be obvious related to information continuing to be provided. You look at that body of water, whether it be a pond, a puddle, a lake, and if you can't continue to maintain the information that produces the structures, from throwing the rock in, or to take it a step further where there's real electrostatic potential, a lightning strike which produces structures by virtue of the force that hits the water with, if that information can't be maintained, then the structures fall away. And the way that I would describe physical depth now is the densest part of an entangled system over time, because it's exposed to so many different types of resonant information, can't maintain the structure. It loses, at this point in our existence, it can't maintain the structure, and then the densest part falls away, which basically means, we're kind of, there's a distortion that occurs because so much of our focus is within the denser part of us, you know what I'm saying, our bodies. But there's so much more beyond that we may not be fully conscious of. Some of us are able to go ahead and access that. And Corrine is absolutely pointing to what I think the future is going to be, where there will be more controlled, what are known as bleed-throughs, similar to channeling, similar to, people can refer to it as possession. But a lot of it just comes as a result of the information from other lives that are happening simultaneously, coming into ours for whatever reason. And at that point, if we can recognize it as such and utilize it as we choose, all of a sudden we've got a way of being able to access various lives without being affected because there's that context. It's no longer so mysterious, so paranormal as it has been in the past.
Okay. So, Jim is so intelligent that sometimes, he doesn't, Jim, not to talk about you when you're here, but I mean, right when you're on the line. But sometimes, it's so involved that sometimes it buzzes by and we're not exactly sure what you're saying. But anyways,
well, by all means, if anybody wants clarification, I'm here. The idea for me is to try to put this out there and then to see how people respond. See if I'm resonating, no pun intended, and then based upon people's impressions, then I can clarify. Because it's not something where you say, okay, I'm going to try to I hate using that phrase, dumb down, simplify it, because it doesn't necessarily, it's such an unusual context. For people to even just think about the fact that they're living simultaneous lives is counter to what they've been taught to believe in a number of different settings, whether it be religious, whether it be, scholastic. It's not something that a lot of people, even those who are familiar with more metaphysical concerns, have probably thought about very much. At least that's my sense. This is not a particularly established idea. It almost seems counterintuitive for a lot of people. So that's what I'm saying. If there are questions, if people have any ideas based upon what I've said, things that, parallels they can see in their own lives, I'm all ears.
Okay. So anyways, I'm reading chat right now, and I've offered to give readings tonight if anybody wants one. So who is FAP, Tessa? Do you know who that is?
I only know him as FAP, so I'm not sure unless he says in the chat room what his actual name is.
Right, okay. So he's saying he asked for one in chat, and he says he's patiently waiting. And, anyways, so I'm wondering who he is. You know what I mean? Like, I think I have an idea of who he is, but I'm just, I'm thinking, Tess, I'm thinking he's a little bit bitter. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Yeah, he's saying me. And I just put the number in the chat room there for him so he can call in. But if you want to call in, I'll reiterate it vocally. And that's 970-335-9596. FAP, if you want to call in, it is a bit easier when you hear a voice to connect to that person. So if you can give us a call on that number, it's 970-335-9596, and we'll get your reading up and running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I already wrote down some things for Jason. So I already wrote down some things for, and I wrote down a couple things for you, Tessa, actually, if you don't mind me running them by you.
Oh, no worries.
So, when you were 13 years old, is that when you lost your mother?
I was actually almost 6 years old.
6, I'm sorry. Okay, so what happened at 13? Something major happened to you at 13. Go ahead.
That was like the first time I actually had like a birthday party with friends. Generally before that it was just my family, but I actually invited a lot of girls over and from school and church and whatnot, and we had a good time. And this girl Nicole fell asleep early, and we ended up painting her face and stuff, and it was really funny because she was quite vain, and when she woke up, she didn't realize what was going on until she finally looked in the mirror, and then she had this total breakdown, and I actually felt really bad about it. Like, at first it was fun and stuff, but then I was like, oh my gosh, like, she's never going to come back to another birthday party again. And I don't think I had another big birthday party after that, but that was kind of 13 coming back into my own. And at the same time, when I turned 13, paranormal experiences started happening for me again. They had actually cut off around the age of like 7 or 8. I got baptized. Paranormal things weren't happening anymore until around, again, the age of 13. So there was a couple things going on at that age.
Okay. When I say to you lemon cookies, does that mean anything to you?
Oh, I love lemon stuff. I used to get yelled at by my dad's girlfriend before I moved in with my aunt and uncle because I would eat lemons, but then after that, I quit eating lemons because she said it was going to rot away my teeth and everything. So anything that was lemon flavored, I would grab a hold of. Lemon cookies, lemon bars, whatever lemon to get into. Yeah, lemon, so good.
Okay, so do you remember if your mother made anything lemon? I know you were very young, but do you remember that?
I don't remember, but she may have, and maybe that's where that wanting to have that tart taste in my mouth came from, because after she was gone, I just took up eating lemons because I couldn't get that taste anywhere else. So that might make a lot of sense. She may have done that. I remember watching her make burritos. She made the best guacamole in the world, but I don't remember her making any lemon bars, but I'm sure she might have, and maybe that's where I had that craving for that tanginess.
Yeah, maybe. And also, do you have an emerald ring? Like someone gave you an emerald in your life, emerald necklace, a little stone. Does that sound? I don't know why I wrote down emeralds here.
Let's see. I received a lapis necklace and earring set from my husband, and he said it was for my anxiety and depression or whatnot. And then I actually purchased a few butterfly emerald rings from Wish.com, which fell apart shortly after, but I held on to one that didn't fall apart because I didn't want it to. But rubies and sapphires were the two.
Mm-hmm. So your emerald rings are broken.
Most of them, there's one that's still whole. It's the blue one. What is that? That's the sapphires, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I kept that one off of my fingers and somewhere safe until I could get it fixed to where they won't fly off. The wings won't fly off.
Right. Okay. So, Tessa, I don't know. So I'm like, because when I give readings, my head's going back and forth, and I'm like, seeing all this stuff above my head, but I'm seeing roller coasters, and I want to say Santa Monica or something. I don't know if you had any, I don't know. But I just see roller coasters and it's in a sunny place. It's not Colorado. I want to say California.
It was Texas, Six Flags over Texas. And that's where my love of roller coasters first came into play. First one I rode was called the Backflash, and I'm kind of ashamed to admit I actually peed my pants. But after that, I was totally hooked on roller coasters, and I loved it. But yeah, it was Six Flags over Texas. I'm trying to remember if that was Houston or where that was. But it was very sunny. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I was not that that's a huge thing, but I see roller coasters clearly.
And I did go to Disneyland with my aunt and uncle, which my aunt is now my mother. She adopted me this last May, and I'm so excited about it.
Oh, wow.
But they took us to Disneyland as kids, and that was the first and only time I ever went, and we rode a few there, but my first experience was in Texas. So it could be either place. You're right on with the California, because I did do some at Disneyland, but my first ones were in Texas, Six Flags over Texas.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going on another roller coaster if I can help it,
Yeah, me neither. The older I get, the more chicken I am.
Totally. Let me see what else I can get for you if you don't mind. Where you live, right? Are there steps going up to the house?
Yes.
Are some of the steps kind of rickety?
Yes, they're kind of falling apart.
So, yeah, those have to be fixed.
Right.
Not that a psychic has to tell you that, but
Yeah, we used to have some going into the back door that were wooden, and my sister neighbor Lisa, she actually fell on them because they started to fall apart, so we got rid of the back door and actually put windows in. But in the front, there's 2 different sets. One set is 5 or 6 inches up, and that's coming through the back way. The ones in the front are only about 2 or 3 inches each, and they're kind of crumbling away because both sets are concrete. And I do agree, those need to be fixed.
Yeah, okay. Also, okay, so your little girl, I've seen her on camera before, and she's freaking beautiful, but, oh, I didn't mean to swear. I don't think I swore.
Well, you said freaking.
Let's start a swear jar right now.
Oh, no, Robert in Australia's got one going for us.
Okay,
that was a stand-in.
Yeah. That was a stand-in word.
I find, or I should say, I sense that she actually does have abilities to see beyond. I mean, I know you told me the story about her past life and what she's saying about that, but there's something about her that is very special in terms of being able to pick up things that are important. That's why anything that comes out of her mouth, listen to her, because she's but she doesn't know what to do with it, Tessa. You know what I mean? Like, of course, she's so young, but I would sort of, kind of cultivate that in her, starting with as soon as she can writing down things that she's thinking, that she's dreaming, things like this. I think that's important. Also, there's, did you get her something recently that was like, what was it, like a headband or something that is like electric blue or very blue, something very blue,
I got her, snow boots one with these, like you said, electric blue snowflakes all over them, and then I got her a snowsuit, and then a snow hat that has some electric blue going through it as well. And I didn't want to put it on her tonight because she has a hooded jacket, and she was going out to the ranch in Arborlees, and I'm like, I don't want you to lose this, which I haven't got to check to see if she has or not. But she demanded I put it on her. So she had 2 different electric blue things that she was wearing today. Oh, and then I got her and her little brother a hoverboard. His was red. Hers was like this metallic color, but you know that little sheen that they would put over things that's kind of rainbow colored? Yeah, that was on her hoverboard, which has some electric blue in there.
Okay.
Did you say hoverboard?
Yes. My 6-year-old son...
Literally a hoverboard?
No, it doesn't really hover. It just like rolls around like whichever direction you put your weight and stuff. And so my son, he's 6 years old, and he gets on his knees and he rides it around and does burnouts and stuff on it. He'll run really fast, and then I can't remember what he calls it. But he kept leaving like marks on the wood floor. And look at this that I left, this drag mark that I left, and but she was kind of like, it's too fast, which her hoverboard ended up being faster than his, and he loves riding hers, so I'm thinking maybe they should switch. But yeah, it's on 2 wheels, so it doesn't really hover. I don't even know why they call it that. Maybe because your feet are kind of off the ground, but yeah. That was their main Christmas present.
I'm sorry to interject. I found that, I know there are actual hoverboards that have been developed, but they're not cheap, so not everybody would probably have them. It sounds like it's a more sophisticated kind of skateboard almost.
Yeah, 2-wheeler sort of thing. Most people ride it on 2 feet, but Floyd and Lily ride it on their knees because they're pretty smart. Closer to the ground, less of a fall to have, and he just like, he's got it mastered, and she's just like, it's too fast, I don't want to do it. So I'm thinking perhaps if they switched hoverboards, they might be happy with what they have. Like, he's happy riding hers and his, and she's just like, mine's too fast, I can't do it.
Right.
But she is like, not only the past life thing, but wise beyond her years, and all of my, I like to call them bratty links, all my kids have a certain gift. You know, they can see spirits and feel what they're feeling. One can see spirits, and then she's more of a healer. Floyd can see spirits, and he's not even into that. He's just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even want to be around this thing. And Lily, she's just comfortable with it all, and she always says, I ain't scared of nothing.
Right, right. That's cool. She will embrace it too. That's why I'm saying pay attention to it. And I know you do, Tessa. I'm not telling you how to be a mother, certainly.
No, for sure, and I'm not getting that at all, but like you said, once she gets old enough to write and such, and she's very smart, like as far as her counting, her alphabet, all this stuff, from the age of a year and a half on, she's got it down really good, and I'm like, man, when she goes into school, she's not going to have any problems. Floyd has more of that self-doubt about himself. He's not so sure if he should be doing this or if this is the right thing, and he kind of pulls himself back, which causes some issues for him, but she's just on top of the game. She's not afraid of anything except for spiders in the hoverboard. Right. But once she gets to that point of writing, I'd love to get her some sort of journal or dream journal or whatever, so she can write her thoughts and anything in there, and I'd be so interested to see what she does have to say.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is going to be so interesting. And we have Jackie in the chat room. Unfortunately, she lost her daughter this past July, and her daughter was so gifted and just such a special girl. It's a very sad situation, but Jackie's daughter she would see spirit. She would, tell her mom certain things. But she was very in tune, and I think she had an idea that she was not going to live very long. But I'm sorry, Jackie, I'm talking about little Layla. I call her little Layla. She wasn't little. She was 18, but she was little to me.
Well, yeah,
anyway,
way too young to be gone.
Yeah, so it's just terrible. But anyways, the point is this, that she came into Jackie's life when she was, she was just a baby. She came into Jackie's life. Jackie adopted her, and it was just Layla taught Jackie so much, and then of course Layla left at 18, and but I mean, there's this gift, so many gifts that we get from encountering people, from loving people, that I just think it's important to understand that all of our connections are so important and they're so crucial to our souls. Whether it be your daughter or, someone else, like you in my life, Tessa, right? It's like these connections are so important. And
she also says that she totally knew she was going.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of stories that Jackie could tell you. I know she doesn't want to call in and talk about it, but I mean, there's so many things to it. But the most amazing thing to me about this situation with Jackie is that she has realized all of this. She watched, she was with Layla when she died, and Layla said something when she died, but Jackie has really, embraced it, so to speak. She's not happy about it, of course. She's heartbroken, but she's embraced the whole situation of having these 18 years with this little girl. And, and then she becomes a woman. She's got a few more years with her. But, I mean, she's embraced this whole idea of it was a miracle. The whole relationship, the whole connection between them was a miracle. And I have never seen anyone handle something so gracefully as I've seen Jackie handle this. So I just want to say that, because I just love Jackie. She's like one of my best friends, and I don't want to start crying, but it's just such a beautiful thing. It really, reaffirms my belief that, everything has meaning and purpose. Every single thing. you know, and I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I really think it matters, you know.
I do believe that everything happens for a reason, no matter how good or how bad. And like you were saying, she learned from her and she learned from the experience, and she knew that Layla knew what was happening and what was going on and that she was about to leave. And I wish I knew that last message, and I wish she would call in and share these stories because I'm very intrigued. Like my own mother knew when she was going to die, and she even wrote her father to say, you need to help me plan my funeral because this is going to happen at this time and I want my funeral to be like this.
Oh, wow.
Certain people have just a certain gift of seeing the outlook. I don't think that I would want to know, but she embraced it just like Layla did, and Jackie kind of grew from that, and it's very sad to lose a child, especially that you've grown to love and embrace, and it's a part of you, you know, and condolences to her, and I'm so sorry for her loss, but I know that she learned a lot from her and from that experience.
Right, and as she said in the chat just now, we know Layla's with us in spirit. Indeed she is. I mean, Jackie has had so many, you know, like, for lack of a better term, encounters with Layla through excellent mediums, you know, this type of thing, through her husband, through just so many different ways that she's, you know, had proof, real proof, Tessa, you know what I mean, that she's still here, or I should say still alive, you know.
Yeah, and she said when...
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, basically, this feeds in very much to the model that I'm envisioning, that we remain entangled, and it's a matter of being able to decide what to do with the information. If whatever information is coming from a particular remaining field that once was part of someone we knew, even though we may still know them, we're not aware we know them. You know, we're not aware as to the extent we're still connected to them. That's so much of it right there, is that none of us are ever really gone, or this whole notion of death being some sort, it's simply a change. It's like, I think the analogy has been made before, and I think why dragonflies are so much a symbol, but you can also look at the whole notion of a butterfly, is that, you know, depending on your perspective, we're in the cocoon here in the physical world, and then the butterfly is the spirit let loose. You know, I think that's a more accurate way of looking at it, because there's so much knowledge that attends being free of the physical existence, however much we choose to come and go.
Right.
Jackie was saying when she was little and you asked her what she was going to be when she grew up, she would say she was never going to grow up. And she died 1 month after her 18th birthday.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, oh my God, you know, it's so freaking, you know, oh my God. Heartbreaking, but amazing at the same time. If something could be amazingly heartbreaking, you know?
Bittersweet.
Indeed. We actually have a caller. Christopher is on the line. Christopher, welcome.
Yay.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
All right. I'm really glad that there's a reading show tonight. It's been a rather tumultuous couple of weeks.
Yeah, Christopher, what's going on?
First of all, I had a family member pass away, and I knew before everybody else when she did. Right
I'm
at
sorry.
that moment. And like a few days before that, I helped in making a decision to keep her alive long enough for her family to see her.
Right.
And that next morning, I woke up. I was dreaming that whole night. I was in this cathedral singing hymns like "How Great Thou Art."
Yeah.
And it was very bright white light, and there was sun coming through the windows like a golden white light.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before, soon as I put that up to God, I heard this loud hum in my ears, and I now hear it every once in a while. And I sometimes hear like little ringing sounds.
Yeah.
And sometimes like a bumps in the night, and I can't explain them. And I was caught off guard because I thought I wasn't that gifted of a medium.
Right.
Christopher, I was just going to say, for what it's worth, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the circumstances with you, but sometimes that humming sound can be associated with either partial or more complete out-of-body experiences, and that certainly happens on occasions when you have those kinds of almost waking visions that you seem to be describing associated with this particular loss especially.
Interesting.
I get a lot of those out-of-body experiences and lucid dreams.
Yeah. They're amazing. I've had one or two at once a long time ago, but nothing since. But it's disorienting. It really is quite disorienting. If you've had it happen before, you kind of have that context to be able to allow yourself to say, okay, well, I'm just going to go with it. But if you haven't had it before, wow.
Yeah.
In that early morning after the event,
Yeah.
when I went to sleep, I dreamed of, I actually went over with her, which is strange. I thought that you're not supposed to be able to do that. And then I saw her family, and we were all celebrating in this, like, huge pub. And the outside was very golden white. And then after the visit, after I was invited and went for a visit, I went and returned.
That's awesome. Wow.
It does happen sometimes. I've heard it a number of occasions where people did follow someone who had died over, and they had enough of a sense that they were connected to the person, the entity, that I have to believe there's some validity to it. Again, what exactly is being perceived is hard to say, and it may be something, each person has a different viewpoint about, but the validity of it, I think, is not to be questioned.
No.
And I asked Christopher when he told me this about the pub and everybody being together in the afterlife and such, what message did you get from this? And he said that she was happy and happy to be reunited with her family, but then he still felt her around. But I'm glad that she was able to share that she was happy, she wasn't sad, she was happy to be where she was.
Oh, yes. And, if you don't mind me saying, Christopher, I think you are, I know you have a religion and you go to church and things like that, but I think that there's something, speaking of past lives, that you were someone holy, so to speak. I think that is part of your being, and that's why when these things happen, or when you come upon these, experiences, that you're feeling deeply about them, because you do have that about your being already. It's been there for a long, long time, I think,
And
the other thing I would say is, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But what I was going to say is that basically, a lot of times, if you have a strong set of reference points, for example, if you've had a very religious background, when something happens associated with either your own passing or other persons, you're going to have that frame of reference. That's how you're going to see it. Where somebody else who had a different tradition, in their past, would end up applying that one instead. It's a way of being able to find that context relative to what kind of life you've lived, and what values you might have associated with those experiences, Christopher. So
Yeah.
it makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know I've had past lives connected to the church because I've done enough research of my history, and Tess pretty much aware of this. I found connections to Saint Stephen Wierznik of Czechoslovakia, and also the Grimaldis.
Okay. Wow.
Which both had a very big connection to a church, and I recently found out that I have connections to the old Catholic Archdiocese of Algiers.
Wow. Wow.
Which is really, really ancient history.
Right. Right.
Which is
Definitely.
That's so
these
cool.
are part of the formation of the church. These places.
Right. Right. I'm so glad you're doing research into your family history, first of all, and I think you're just like, you amaze me, Christopher. I think you're just such a great person. I love all these research things that you're into, and that you're getting to know your soul, and that you share it with all of us, and I appreciate that very much.
Well, on that note, you guys, we have to go to break. So all of our listeners and our callers, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Hey, guess what? You can now get your brand new Spaced Out Radio swag at spacedoutradio.com. We've brought the store back with all new items for you to pick out and pick up for yourself, your family, or friends. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, we got it all. All you have to do is head to our website and click on Store. Choose what you want and it's shipped to you. The Spaced Out Radio store is right there for you. Come shop with us at spacedoutradio.com. Then we can own the night together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com. If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR. At the corner of Nelson and Granville, the Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT, on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to Spaced Out Weekend host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Here's a sound again, voices dancing in my head.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for listening in tonight. Tonight we have Corrine De Winter, aka Coco, and is it Michael, right? Our guest? James.
I'm Jim.
Jim. Okay. For some reason, yesterday and today I keep saying Michael for different people's names, and I don't really know Michael, and I'm like, where's this coming from? Who is this Michael person?
You're not Dionne Warwick, are you?
No. No. And we also have Christopher on the line still. Are we done with Christopher's reading? Was there anything else that we wanted to put out there? Any side notes or anything like that?
No, I mean, if Christopher has a question, I'll certainly try to answer it, but I don't know if he's done, you know?
Yeah, I'll ask my question. As I feel this connection to me is finding me instead of me finding them, I am curious, will I eventually be knowing these people in real life again in this lifetime?
I think you already know some of them in certain avenues in your life right now. I think you already know some of them, even though you probably wouldn't recognize them as such. But I think that there are some of those people or souls in your life right now. In terms of, will you meet more of them?
Yes.
I'm thinking, Christopher, I'm trying to discern. I say in about 2 years, you're going to have an opportunity to go into the hub of where this life happened. And I'm not sure why it's going to take 2 years, but I'm thinking probably in about 2 years, you're going to go and, to this place where this stuff took place in your past life. And I'm not sure how that's going to happen exactly, but I see about 2 years, almost 2 years.
It's going to be an amazing journey. I've never been over there.
Yeah, that will be amazing for sure.
Yeah, I thank you guys very much, and God bless.
Oh, you too,
No problem at all, Christopher.
I'll talk to you later, Jim.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Robin. I'm doing well.
Hi, Robin.
Hi.
I
remember that. So you're on the Christmas show, Corrine, and I remember that you read me. Do you remember what it was?
Sort of, but now you're not going to believe this, but I actually had a dream about you last night, and I don't even know what the hell you look like. But I remember, this is what I remember from the dream. You were wearing an army green coat. It was like a one of those those coats that guys wear now that look like it's like from, well, it actually could be from the military, but anyways, you're wearing that, and it has something to do with aliens, that you were researching aliens, or you had something to do with aliens. I don't know what the hell that means, but does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Maybe he's an alien. Just kidding.
He could be. But anyways, Robin, no, I don't remember what I said to you back then. I rarely remember the readings I give to people, so no, but anyways. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So, yeah, my question is that, so for those who know that that Stan Lee passed away this year, and he had a good friend named Jack Kirby, and I used to draw, and I used to draw a lot. So I was wondering if Jack Kirby reincarnated with me.
Well, did I tell you about drawing the last time I talked to you?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know who Jack Kirby is, and I love him. You can certainly, I mean, I'm not saying reincarnated as you, Robin, but I'm saying you can certainly channel him if you would like to. And you probably already are. Simply by invoking his name and thinking about him. Do you agree with me, Jim?
I would say the analogy I'd make, you've heard the term muses, I'm guessing, Robin? Yeah. That typically creative people follow their muses. A lot of times I suspect that whatever information is coming from a particular individuated expression, like a Jack Kirby or whatever other, a painter from the past, quote unquote past, again, I don't want to get too much into semantics, but you are tapping into that. The muse is something that's real, and enough people have spoken to how much muse has affected their creative process. So what may be happening is because of the desire you have to be able to draw similar to Jack Kirby, you are actually tapping into Jack Kirby's thought process as it would have been either, it may still be, and certainly was when he was doing, Captain America and so forth.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, very interesting. Was there anything else, Sir Robin?
Yeah, so, my, granddad, passed away at age 98 in 2010. I was just wondering if he has, anything that, he wants me to know.
Okay. When you said Stanley, Robin, I thought of your grandfather, and I don't know why. But anyways, I didn't know you were talking about Stan Lee. Yeah, I didn't know you were talking about Stan Lee. But I thought you said Stanley. But anyways, okay, so I thought you were talking about your grandfather when you said that, but you obviously weren't. But let me see.
Do you know my grandfather's name? Would you like to know his name?
Yeah, what's his name?
His, I forgot his, middle name, but his name is Glenn St. Charles.
Ooh, okay. Okay, now is your mother still alive, Robin?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Do you is it? I'm seeing like a birthday cake or something. Is there something that you want to do toward reaching out to your mother that you haven't done?
That I haven't done?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah, actually, there is. So, I'd like to know what you're saying from what I want to know. What I want to do is that I would like to have my mother's health get better.
Yeah. So is her birthday coming up right now?
No, that's May 17th.
Okay. There's something. So when I asked for your grandfather, I got your mother, meaning that there's something that you need to do to pay more attention to your mother, or something that you could do for your mother to make things better. What is it? What can you do? Hold on. Okay, so now are you like on a daily basis with her, Robin, or not? Like, do you see her often?
Yeah, I currently still live with them because and I don't work and I still live at their place.
Okay.
And so and I'm very open that to my mental disability because I have seizures, so. And so I actually I'm actually living here by choice because of my disability.
I hear you. Yep. I hear you. Okay, the first thing I see for your mother in improving her health is she needs to drink more water. She's somewhat dehydrated, okay? And I'm not a doctor, so please don't, I can't give medical advice, obviously, but I'm just saying she needs more water. She needs to hydrate herself more. I also see that that there is something in the house that is affecting her breathing, and I'm just putting this out there. Like, I'm not sure if this is exactly true, but it's some kind of mold or something that's happening in the house that's affecting her breathing. So that's got to be taken care of. I don't know if you're familiar with anything like that in the house, but those are just two things that I can think.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay. Because that's like wicked. That totally affects us, mentally and everything else in our bodies.
Can I interject for one? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Was going to ask Robin. Would you say there's a high moisture index in the house? Is it fairly moist most of the time? Damp?
Probably in the basement. We get a lot of water down there.
Okay. Do you think it ends up translating to where you guys are most of the time in the house, though, or does it stay pretty much in the basement?
I'm on the second floor, and sometimes we do get water leaks on the second floor, but not as much as we used to.
And is your mother on the second floor most of the time?
No, she sleeps on the first floor with my parents.
Okay, so she's in closer proximity.
And plus, she uses a breathing apparatus to help her sleep at night. And sometimes she doesn't clean that out. That could get a little bit mold in it.
Now, is that a COPD mask or something for apnea?
Something for apnea.
Okay. Yeah, there is a possibility that there might be some bacteria mold building up in there. But if you do have a fairly high moisture content in the basement, that definitely could be contributing to some of the problems she's having.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Hello? There she is.
Yeah.
Well, did that answer your question, Sir Robin?
Yeah, and there's just one more last thing I need to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
So, apparently, I do have a gift, but I'm not quite sure how to use it yet.
Okay. When you said that, I immediately got automatic writing. Does that make sense to you?
I think so, yeah.
Can you try to do that, Robin? Can you try to sit down, like at a certain time every day and just write? Just just write out anything, even if it's nonsense. Just start writing and keep it going for about 20 minutes. And I think that is your strongest suit right there. I'm not positive of that, but I'm almost positive of it.
Okay.
So can you try to do that every day at a certain time? Just get a journal or paper or whatever and write down. Just like pretend like you're writing a letter to somebody, anybody, and just keep writing and writing and writing, and you're going to get some stuff out of that. Trust me, you will.
All right.
Mhm.
All right, that's what I need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know what happens, would you please?
Okay.
Okay.
So I was wondering, Jim, do you know what you have anything on that?
Well, the only I've never done any automatic writing myself. I've read about it on a number of occasions, and someone close to me once upon a time actually wrote in a foreign language. It was confirmed by someone as to exactly what she had written. So there's no doubt in my mind. It's the same general notion with respect to what we had to say about Jack Kirby, is that you're tapping into someone else, you're entangled with somebody else's thought processes, and then it translates to your, it's so much present in your environment that you have to express. It becomes something that just is hard to not put down, because it's on your mind as much as it is after a time. That's how a lot of people start automatic writing, as I understand it. There's a need more than anything else to just go ahead and kind of release it, have the catharsis, because it's there and you don't know why, and all of a sudden you're doing it and you don't even have to ask, can I do it? Yeah, I'm doing it, so I must be able to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No problem at all, Robin. No problem at all.
Thanks so much for calling in, Robin. It was great to hear from you.
All right.
All right. Good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next we have Mr. Ron J, aka Rono.
Rono.
Hey, Rono, how's it going? Good to see you. You gotta. Are you gonna ask a question? Ronald, you're on the line. Were you gonna ask a question to our beautiful Corrine De Winter and guest?
Ron, put the joint down.
Yeah.
Are we going to ask a question to our beautiful Corrine De Winter and guest?
I think he's on a delay. Come on, Rono.
He actually looks like he's falling asleep.
I think he's fiddling with something. Well, Ron, if you don't ask a question, I'm going to move on to Miss Kathy. Yeah, it looks like he's detained. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ron. Go ahead with your question.
That is not me. Double A is not me.
Okay.
If you want, don't call him Ronald, please.
Ron J, come on. What's your question?
Do you have a question, Ron? No, he's busy watching Batman reruns.
Not at this specific moment. Well, my question is just to say, it's time to. I just want to hear this show on my computer first. This is too tricky. Go back and forth. A question, okay. Do you believe in flat Earth?
What did he say?
Do you believe in flat Earth?
No, I don't. Next question.
Believe in what?
Flat Earth.
Oh, the flat Earth. Okay.
So there's the girl.
Yeah,
Do you have a question, girl?
that's my sister Kathy, Kathy.
Oh, hi, Kathy. Hi, Kathy. I'm sorry, Kathy. I thought that was Ronald from the chat room.
It is.
Oh, okay.
He's like, don't call me Rano. I call him Rano all the time. That's the first time I've heard that.
It's too early. It's too early to call him Rano yet.
Right.
Are y'all having fun?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we're asking questions?
Readings, yeah.
A question.
What would you like to know for your reading?
Oh. Okay. I don't know. Okay, something about my future.
Okay. Well, Kathy, you're as pretty as your sister. Let me just tell you that. You have. What's that?
It broke up. I couldn't hear.
Okay. Well, I said you're as pretty as your sister, but you're welcome. So, I see this big upheaval happening in about a year for you. You're going to make a lot of changes, excuse me, and you're going to be at some place, and I'm not sure if it's work or some other place that you're going to be. I'm not sure where. Wait a minute. Hold on. Shoot. Anyways, I'm not sure where you are, but you're actually going to be traveling a lot in about a year, okay? And this involves different relationships, changing of the scenery, and you actually creating some things that you haven't, you have them in your mind right now, but you haven't jumped ship and kind of tried to create this stuff yet, but you're going to. And I see this happening within a year.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, let me think something else. Well, I've been reunited with my son. Do you see anything on my son?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do see something with your son, and I was going to say something to do with a child of yours. Okay. So when you feel like you're ready, Kathy, to have him back in your life, when you actually own that in your own heart, that you deserve to have him back in your life, that's when it's going to happen. So you got to kind of work on that yourself. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You haven't done anything really drastically wrong or anything like that. But it's like, it's up to you to own that in yourself, in your heart, that yes, I am ready for him to be back in my life, and I deserve him to be back in my life. And that's just what I got from that, But I see that happening. Yes, I do.
Okay, so I have another question. You said something about I'll be doing a lot of traveling in the next year, or in about a year.
In about a year, yeah.
Okay, so am I going to be successful? And I don't mean just like rich. Can you tell me something about like the future of my business? I really want to be successful.
Yeah, I hear you. But there's something blocking that, and that is you, Kathy, okay? So you have these ideas, okay? But you're not owning them. You're not saying, I deserve this, I belong here, this is what I want, this is what I deserve, okay? So this starts with you, okay? You have great ideas. You have creative, I think you're creative. I'm not positive, but I think you are very creative. And
yes,
okay.
Creative.
So you have these ideas. You need to, first of all, get a journal, write down all the ideas, write down all the descriptions of your ideas, all your creativity, write it all down, make it solid, and then accept it and go forward. Because you will have opportunities for this, okay? But it all starts with ourselves, Kathy. You know what I mean?
So I've been doing that. Of making a plan, and setting the plan into motion as much as I can now. But the future progress of the plan scares me to death. Because I have to go to all these people to actually solicit the work. Maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong. Maybe I need to think about it differently. You know,
Can I interject for a second, Kathy? I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just wondering if you had to say what exactly would they find valuable about the thing you would provide to them, how would you describe it?
Well, I mean, it's good quality work. It's going to be good quality work.
And what sort of work? What sort of work is it we're speaking of?
Oh, it's industrial painting.
Industrial painting, okay. And how would it differ from other industrial painting? Would it be more creative, more visually interesting, or just fairly straightforward?
Pretty much straightforward. I mean, it's going to be. Okay. I mean, they're regulated to be rust free and to be painted every so often. So just to be able to, once I get one job, I know that they're going to see the quality of the work and they're going to do more. They want us to do more, because they're all over. So how would I word that? To use my word?
Yeah, how would you wow them, I guess is a good way of putting it, without actually applying a coat of paint to their wall yet?
And without wearing platforms and a mini skirt?
That'd work.
Right.
Well, no, look, I did not get a job one time because I applied for a paint job, and when I went to get the application, they had me hired on the phone, and I went to get the application, and I had platforms on and a mini skirt and a kind of a low cut. I was just dressed normal for me. And I walked in there, and she looked at me up and down and handed me the application. I said, well, I guess I didn't get that job.
Word that I had a building to have you paint.
Right.
I told my friend, I said, you know what? I want to do the painting, but I think we should do the sexy painting too. Like sexy painting, like in sexy outfits. I think that would get a lot of work.
Tessa.
Sounds good to me.
You need something painted?
Show all the time. Did you not have your own song? Have your own.
That was it. I was just talking about platforms and stilettos.
Is that Sandra?
No, that's my sister Kathy.
Kathy. Oh.
Where? Hello? Is this the gentleman I've been talking to? Are you a psychic also?
Pardon me?
Are you a psychic or will you introduce yourself?
That's Ron. He's in the background and keeps jumping in. But yeah, Michael. I'm sorry, I said Michael again. Sorry, James.
I'm Jim.
Jim.
You're addressing me, Kathy. I'm Jim.
Hi, Jim. I'm Kathy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, I was telling my sister Amanda in Phoenix, because I made sushi last time I was down there, and they're like, oh, that's so good, you should do that for a living. And I'm like, I'll call it sexy sushi. So maybe you can have a sexy painting.
Yes. It's like you can answer the phone and go, yeah, it's Kathy's painting. Oh,
but at the same time, like,
sexy too for non-sexy.
Right. At the same time, you know, you had that older lady that you were painting for, and I think she found comfort in the fact that you were female and not male, because so many older women that are alone do worry about a male coming into their house and doing certain things, and so she found that certain level of comfort, you being there and being female and being able to do the amazing, immaculate job that you did, and you actually got more business off of that, so that was awesome.
That would be a push one for the non-sexy painting.
What?
Push 1 for non-sexy. Push 2 for sexy. Push 3 for
non-sexy painter.
I'm just going to say overalls are never wrong.
Right?
Overalls are never wrong?
Yeah. Overalls are never wrong. That's just an observation.
Overalls like, and that's all overalls?
All overalls.
Well, all overalls would, yeah, there's truth in advertising for you. Overalls aren't necessarily always overall, but that's, whatever.
That's what I was thinking.
Paint suit.
Well, I thank y'all for the reading and talking to me, and I hope y'all have fun.
All right, I look forward to hanging out with you at the after party.
Yeah, for a little bit I'll hang out.
Mwah.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Kathy.
Have a good night.
It's been a pleasure, Kathy.
I thought you left. I thought the original lady left.
No, Corrine is still here. She's my main guest tonight, and Jason, I got it right this time.
No,
Jim.
Yeah.
Jim. He said Jason earlier.
Well, Jason's closer to Jim than Michael is. Just an observation.
Right? I was saying in the chat room, where's this Michael coming from? I don't even know one, and I think maybe it's my St. Michael medallion, and maybe I just subconsciously feel like I need to call upon him because there's crazy stuff in my house.
That's what I was going to say, Tessa. That's what I was going to say.
I'm like, who's this Michael? It must be St. Michael. I need you, St. Michael. Come help me.
I'm pretty sure I have a ghost in my house. Tess.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I have the ghost. There is that ghost that was messing with my car.
Mm-hmm.
Is messing with other things in the house now.
Oh, great. He's moved in.
Yeah. No, he's at the door. He's at the door, the front door.
Oh, is he knocking now?
Well, yeah, he knocks sometimes, but he took my wreath off the wreath hanger, and it was leaning right up against my door. Broke. It's plastic bulbs. The bulbs were shattered.
Oh, wow. And it's leaning against there, so that's weird that they'd be broken.
It's exactly like somebody picked it up and just slammed it down. I don't know. It's pretty scary. Pretty aggressive.
I'm going to have to buy and send you a cleansing kit, sister.
Yeah.
Smudge sticks are always good.
Mm-hmm.
And purple plates, by the way.
Yes.
Purple plates?
Yeah, Tesla purple plates, which Corrine, she sells. They're awesome. I got one from her, and it was amazing. Like, it changed my energy. Like, I felt more motivated and everything, and I think it was keeping whatever was on me off of me. And then I let my friend Cheryl wear it because her daughter was murdered, and she was going through all these issues. Yeah. So I was like, try this out. So if it works for you, I can get one for you on your own. But yeah, they really do work. Like, I was like, what is this and how does it work? But once I got it and tried it, I would wear it in my pocket all the time. It really did actually work awesomely for me.
Yeah. And
a lot of that.
Kathy, if you send me your address, I'll send you one for free, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
A lot of it basically comes down to the immune system not being nearly so burdened as a result of the plate correcting any number of things. So you're responding better to whatever exactly is creating that level of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's amazing, I must say.
It is pretty amazing.
So yeah, maybe in the after party, if you're on there, you guys can exchange that, and that way you can get yours sent to you. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be. Thank you so much. Thank you, and I'll see you on the after party.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Bye, sister.
Good night.
Good night, Kathy.
She's pretty, Tessa. She's as pretty as you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's prettier.
No.
She's my big sister. She's full of so much energy and love and light, and I'm glad she's doing so well in her life right now. She's had a lot of issues, and she's really loving and embracing life. And she actually had a guy friend of hers that was trying to move in on her territory, and she's like, no, I don't need that right now. And I was like, you're strong enough, let him know. And she was kind of worried about it, but she did good. She's like, go home. So he did. And she's just so happy, and her life is going really well right now, and I'm so excited for her. We actually have a question in the chat room here from Unzip Your Mind, aka Robin, and he says, Corrine, I had a dream, me in an army in aliens. Does that have to do with me studying ancient history?
And I'm saying maybe. In my dream, he was in the cellar, which might reflect that there's mold in the cellar, and that it might be from that. But in the dream, it was weird. It was weird. It's like, it's so weird that I would even have a dream about this guy when I don't even know him. But he was in army fatigues, and he's in the cellar, he's studying aliens, and what? And then what? So I don't know. It might be from his studying, his background or whatever he just said now. But I'm not sure. It's very interesting, though, aliens, So, yeah, it might be to do with him studying ancient history. I'm not sure. But, yeah, and it's like, frankly, I'm bored with aliens. So it's weird for me to even dream about aliens. You know what I mean? I just am,
Right.
I'm sorry. I know this whole show, well, not the whole show, but most of it is based on alien stuff, but it's like it bores me. I know they exist. I know they're out there. I know they're doing stuff, but I don't, I'm more interested in dead people than aliens,
Yeah, I kind of do a lot of that. I've had a couple alien people in here. I think one, actually, callers that call in with alien stuff, but for the most part, my guests are about ghosts and psychic and whatnot. But you were asking me about dreams, vivid dreams that I've had lately, and that was one as well. I was outside with my kids looking at the stars, waiting for the Perseids or whatnot to fly over, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh look, it's a satellite, and then all of a sudden it was like bink, 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 like bouncing around, and I'm like, that's no satellite, that's a UFO. And that was another vivid dream I had. It was really interesting. And so vivid, it was like we were really actually there. And then another one came along doing a different sort of shape going on. But yeah, dreams are pretty interesting, like a different reality or realm,
Right, and I read this quote last night because I'm reading this book on dreams that someone just gave me for Christmas, and it said, who wrote it? I'm trying to think. A dream uninterpreted is like a letter unread, which I thought was cool. I can't remember who the hell said it.
I like that. It's very true. Is that if you're not able to really get a feel for the why or the what, it's like a stone in your shoe. Depending upon how much you remember, of course, because that's also a problem. And, you wake up and you forget so much of it that, it's almost like the letter was written with invisible ink.
Mm-hmm. And my youngest daughter, Lily, that we were talking about with the past life that she was telling me about, when I'm at work at night doing overnight security, I'll call for the good nights and everything. And she repeatedly, she had one dream and then another dream similar to it, where there was a UFO in our backyard, and it was kind of behind the blue spruce trees. She could see the lights, like the different colored lights, and a bright light coming from the middle, like where the opening was. And she was saying how the first time how they were going onto the ship, and then her big brother Floyd was trying to jump out. He actually jumped out and got away, and she was like calling down to him and trying to reach to him and like, come back, come back. And she said they were nice and they weren't mean or anything. And then the next dream she had, they were in the same place in the backyard, kind of behind where my bedroom is, where we all sleep in our family bed. And she was like, this time they were, I think she said green, because I asked her, were they gray colored? She said, no, they were green. And they were like running all over the yard, like chasing Floyd and chasing me. And they weren't being mean. It was kind of funny, but it was so vivid, like all these things that she was saying. And I'm like, wow, is this really actually happening? Are they taking my kids? And, I kind of want to give them massages like I did when they were babies and see, are there any hard spots anywhere? Like, have they put anything into them and they're like tracking my kids, because they are so gifted. And, you know, if anybody were to get that, like my kids would be, you know, some of the people they would take. But that was kind of scary, but at the same time intriguing to me. Like, what is actually happening?
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, yeah.
And she was going so into detail, I'm like, wow.
I have a friend of mine that has basically established a relationship with something. I can't go into details, but I have a fairly good sense that it's been going on for quite some time in an area where these particular UFOs are showing up on a fairly regular basis. I do think that there are relationships established, and what that means is hard to say yet, but I also think the possibility exists that there are naturally occurring phenomena that whereby entanglement occurs, that these relationships are established, and not to the point where you're dealing with extraterrestrials, or, and I'm going to throw this out for the first time here, I'm now referring to anything along those lines as being extratemporal, because it could also be some entity from this existence, you know, from you know, maybe quote unquote the future, because extraterrestrials frequently also are not within our timeline. You know, it's a different environment they're coming from. But so much of this ties in with what goes on when people do have encounters without necessarily being abducted. There's a sense that they have had a very profound experience. They've had that kind of communion where they're almost experiencing a lot of whatever it is that had either had the intention of trying to contact them or connect with them would have intended, you know, all along. It's weird. It's the perception that a lot of people have sometimes isn't 100% clear. So your daughter may have some kind of information she's receiving about a sort of alien encounter without necessarily having the encounter.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot, actually.
Well, we actually have a... Oh, go ahead, Corrine.
No, I was going to say, is Jason calling in?
We actually have a caller from 678 number. Who are we talking to?
This is Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
It's the actual Jason. Sorry.
It is. It's Jason.
Right.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah. Or I could also go as Michael.
Right. Hello, Jason Michael.
I appreciate your flexibility, Jason.
Jason's like, whatever you want to call me, Tessa, you can call me.
Right.
So, Jason, I'm so glad you called in. So, okay, so when I read the last name that you put in here, and I don't know if that's your real last name, but I get Egyptian stuff because of Hotep. Does that make sense to you?
It is a real last name. We're not even sure. The origination is in question.
Can you repeat that for me, Jason, what your last name is?
It's Hotop.
Hotop, H-O-T-A-P?
O-P.
H-O-T-O-P.
Yay, I'm so glad you called in.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So
it definitely goes back to a certain part of Germany, but I think I've traced it back to a group out of France that actually went into that part of Germany and defeated that area.
Okay, interesting.
Sounds almost like it has ancient Egyptian roots, like Hotep.
That's what I just said, Jim. Did you hear me?
See, I didn't hear that because I didn't hear him say the last name. I didn't make the connection.
Okay. So anyways, so there's that. And then also, who is Elaine? Is there any Elaine in your life?
No.
No. Okay. Electronics. Are you into electronics? Is that what you do?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, what else? That's all I wrote down, but let me get... Do you have a question, first of all? Let me ask you that.
I think I had one for Jim.
Okay.
Jim Michael. No, I'm just kidding.
Fire away.
So, I heard you talking earlier about, Tesla and magnetics, and you seem like you're very astute on that type of thing. So when you're talking about or referring to the connections, whether it's physical or non-physical, is it all related, like in a multiverse where, say if we take like Egypt and the way pyramids are laid out and how they connect to other buildings or tunnels, wherever it may be, with ley lines. So are you saying that's all connected in that way?
Absolutely. Jason, what it really comes... I'm sorry?
So it's like a circuit board in a way?
That's a very good analogy. And I mean, the analogy actually, that very analogy has been made with respect to I can't pronounce that, Teotihuacan in Mexico is that the way that they laid out the Toltecs or the, whatever tribe in question laid out the plan for that complex, it resembles a circuit board very closely. And there's evidence, I don't know if you've heard about this, they found mercury underneath the primary pyramid. I believe the Pyramid of the Moon, but I'm not positive. It's the largest or one of the largest in North America, or in the Americas, because it's Central America. I wanted to catch myself there. But the association with generating some sort of static charge based upon transduction of seismic energy, which has been borne out, the testing that's gone on at Giza has demonstrated the pyramid can produce very distinct static electrical charges, which could have been utilized. Definitely skews with this notion of there being a very precise organization of the complex to distribute whatever energy or information, resonant information, came about as a result of the transduction of the seismic. I think it's no coincidence that these complexes are where they are, along very specific longitudinal lines, or latitudinal lines more accurately. And there was a knowledge, there's a very good book that David Hatcher Childress wrote, and basically included various commentary from people. I don't know if you've heard some of these names. There's a New Zealand researcher, mathematician, one of the most brilliant on the planet, Bruce Cathey, talked about the fact that it was no accident that these things were sited where they were, because it was to optimize the extraction or the transmutation of that seismic or telluric energy that was being produced at that point on the planet based upon how it's distributed. Any given celestial body is going to be distributed in a certain way depending upon the environment around it, how much information it's receiving. In the instance of the Earth, air pressure would be a form of information. It's variable. The electromagnetic field is variable, so that's more information, referential information, which in turn does have a direct impact on whatever structures originate end products with a particular celestial body. In the instance of the Earth, we're basically an end product. All life is an end product. A lot of aspects with respect to this particular environment are end products. It's not very glamorous, but at the same time, that's essentially what we're talking about. In the instance of Egypt, as far as this notion of the schematic, they were very knowledgeable. Based on everything I've read and seen, I feel strongly that they were very knowledgeable about how precisely physics distributed, how the Earth formed based upon the physics, the associated physics with this particular environment, and they maximized utilization of it. How they had this knowledge, you can talk about aliens, you can talk about any number of different things. My personal belief is that ancient man did not have nearly the amount of electromagnetic density. We live in an environment that is so full of electromagnetic resonance that it's hard to make distinctions. If they had less to be dealing with, then they would be able to establish a relationship, a recognition of various types of resonances far more easily than we can in this day. And I think that definitely was part of the reason why they had the knowledge that they did, the insight, the ability to perceive a lot of their reality much more fully than people might be able today.
Wow. Interesting. I could probably ask you several more questions, but I don't want to take up everybody's time. So.
No problem.
No. Well, thank you, and good talking to you all.
Yeah,
you as well, Jason. Thanks.
It was so great to hear from you, Jason. Bye.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye. Yeah, that's very interesting because, I mean, they're discovering more and more sites and such in Central America, like you were saying, by satellite that have been covered up by trees and everything that we haven't seen before. And like you're saying, it does look kind of like an electronic board. The way that it's laid out and everything is pretty intriguing.
Right.
It is. There's no doubt about it. The level of knowledge that the ancients had is vastly underestimated in terms of the way that modern science views. There's an arrogance amongst certain schools, is the best way I can put it. Others are very much cognizant of it and are really trying to do more to understand what the underlying dynamics were, are a lot more open-minded, but the lack of multidisciplinary sensibilities in modern science is a problem. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the reasons why I think a lot of the correlations weren't made, and they're very leery about making the correlations because so much of what their belief systems rest on are directly related to maintaining, at least a general body of knowledge is the best way I can put it, Tessa. That they're not going to be too crazy with respect to revising, the conventional wisdom.
Well, on that note, we have to go to our second break, so you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel, the freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social media freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Sit back, relax, grab a drink, and listen closely. Spaced Out Radio continues through the weekend. From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Weekend with Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight and listening to our shenanigans. But tonight we have Corrine De Winter as well as Jim. Did I get it?
Yes, you did.
Yay! Okay, and on break we were talking about and continuing on with the Central America thing, as far as a lot of these things weren't found or realized until satellites shone down upon them through all the trees, and we're finding these different, patterns and such. and then they clear them away and they see what's actually there. Jim, you were talking about the patterns and the way that it's laid out and where they may have gone. Can you fill us in as well as our listeners on this?
Well, the thing that I was saying to Tessa is that, with respect to instances where whole populations vanish, the Anasazi was something that she made reference to, and to be honest with you, it's not necessarily something I've been aware of myself, because it's more about the environmental conditions, and frequently I think that a lot of changes to the environment, radical changes, things that don't make a lot of sense to people unless they've actually been through them. I use the analogy of a tornado or any sort of vortexual storm, hurricane, cyclone, whatever the case may be. Physics changes in that instance, almost like as would be the case with a black hole or white hole. You're dealing with things that don't seem possible, where straws are being driven through trees, and the general sense is because there's a transmutation in the structure of the tree that the straw is driven into it as a result of a specific force. There's something very, very interesting that occurs in that instance. And when you're talking about the disappearance of civilizations, could it be it's because of the fact they're exposed to major changes in their environment that are rare? Anomalous would be the word to use. And I mean, I certainly can point to just one of 12 around the planet based upon the distribution of it. What the late Ivan Sanderson referred to as vile vortices, Bermuda Triangle being one of those, where there are very specific meetings of various types of properties with respect to the planet, whether it be the electromagnetic field, the ocean currents, any sort of things that happen in a place that people have settled. Sometimes strangeness occurs, disappearances, things like that. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. There may be a number of different possibilities, for example, as to why the Anasazi disappeared. Were they whisked away by extraterrestrials? It's possible. I don't rule anything out most of the time, but I do think that there are things we don't necessarily understand about the physics of this planet, of any different celestial body, because obviously there's different values at play in that particular environment. You look at a planet like Jupiter, you're talking about very, very different things at work, because the nature of its makeup is different from the Earth. There's far less in the way of a solid planet. It's there, but it's actually fairly small compared to the size of Jupiter, because Jupiter is still mostly consisting of gas and plasma.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of creatures emerge from an environment like Jupiter? They're going to be very different, because you have far more in the way of constant information being distributed, cavitation constantly occurring, because maintaining the structure of whatever emerges from Jupiter is necessary. When the word alien is used, it's not really out of context in that instance. We're not used to thinking about things in this way, and that's why I'm really trying to bring it forward. In the instance of something like Teotihuacan, they obviously had an understanding of a lot of things with respect to different types of substances, elements. There was an electrical significance to some of these elements where they were found. Mercury definitely has the ability to act as a conductor, a superconductor, in fact, it's thought in some instances. So we're talking about a level of knowledge that is comparable to modern knowledge, maybe not without the same base, but certainly enough experiences that they were able to infer and produce this sort of instrument that involved mercury. It was certainly, there was records of it found at the Great Pyramid. So there's got to be a correlation. Something had to have been going on with respect to manipulating electricity as well as the Earth's particular seismic forces, because it's going to produce a different set of forces than, say, a smaller planet or a less dense planet.
Yeah, with the Anasazi living in the Four Corners area since 4th grade, I don't remember how old I was, but I would go over to the bishop's house, and, the bishop's wife would perm my hair, and I'd have stayovers with her daughter, and she had all these Kachina dolls, and I'd always look at them like, what the heck is this? Like, that's a weird headdress. And going to different powwows and stuff, you'd see them in different dresses, like with turkey feathers or hawk feathers or whatnot. You never see these headdresses like you see on these Kachina dolls. And then doing more studies on it, they're more like aliens as far as these are breathing apparatuses and such on their heads. And it totally made sense to me. Like, these were actually aliens coming down and doing whatever. I mean, there's the Kokopelli and all kinds of other ones. There's so many different Kachinas out there. So it makes you think perhaps the Anasazi were taken by aliens because they reached a certain degree of intelligence or whatnot. And, they were gone, but their bowls and water pitchers and whatever else were left untouched. There was no bones or anything left behind. These people were just missing. There was no sign of, like you were saying, a tornado or whatnot coming in and tearing down these ruins. It just appeared that they just disappeared. And there's other places around the world. The one you had just mentioned, I can't even remember it because it's so intricate to my mind.
That's the one in Mexico. It's one of the oldest complexes in Mexico, preceding Tenochtitlan, which was the old Mexico City, the Aztecs, or more accurately, the Mexica, which connects them with the Middle East, just as an aside, because the word Mexica is a Hebrew word. Mm-hmm. There's got to be some sort of correlation between the cultures in Central America and the Middle East. I have no doubt in my mind there's enough evidence of voyages to South America from the Near East and Middle East now, in terms of the linguistics. The truth is going to be very, very surprising to a lot of people because they don't normally associate these cultures with each other. As far as your question, when you're talking about the Kachina, there's an analogy that I have just become aware of with respect to the Japanese pantheon of various types of deities, entities. I think I've heard it mentioned before, but I mean, certainly there's also the possibility there was some sort of communion with extraterrestrials. I don't rule that out at all because the language, the ant people, it all tends to point to some sort of very old set of beliefs with respect to how precisely the Hopi and the Navajo arrived to Earth, came into existence. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will note, Tessa, that I find extraordinarily interesting, and it's not something that a lot of non-Native Americans are aware of, is with respect to the rain dance, because the way that the rain dances are done, and people may laugh when they hear me say this, but what really ended up sealing it for me, it actually was the topic of the very first X-Files spin-off paperback novel. And what they do is produce an artificial tornado. They produce a vortex by virtue of repeated motions. The dances, the sounds all create a vortex, and that vortex in turn produces rain.
And you were saying how these people might have come across overseas, and I have to say, as an LDS member in my younger years, one of the things that they wished for us to do was to read the Book of Mormon and the Pearl of Great Price, and I did that in order to get these cool little carved out books and stuff to put on my bookshelf, which I never got, although I read it. But it was telling the story of how they did come across the sea to the Americas. That doesn't mean North America, but most likely Central America, because they had temples and pyramids and whatnot going on, and battles and so many different things. And when you were talking about that just a minute ago, I'm like, oh, I totally read about that. Like, they came across the sea and all these things were happening. And it's very intriguing to just think about it, like, not only in biblical text, but in reality. Like, well, this must have been where it was, and maybe they come up north, and that's how all this stuff happened. But it's interesting to read these different things, and there's also different texts coming out all the time. Anytime they find any mummified remains or whatnot, generally there's a bunch of vases filled with different, I want to say prizes. Like, there's different texts and stuff in there, and so we're learning more and more every day what the ancient texts were, and I just want to know everything, because it does tell us a lot about our history and about where we came from and what happened before, and we're only just now, we're talking about space and learning about space. We don't know everything about our Earth or even undersea. We're still learning every day about where we're at right now. So why don't we focus on that? Once we accomplish all of that, then let's go into space. But I mean, we just got to go above and beyond.
I couldn't agree with you more, Tessa. There's a real, what I call institutional narcissism, whereby basically people have to constantly do something bigger and better in order to validate their existence. We have to go further and further and further into space. We don't ask why we're doing it necessarily, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to indulge curiosity, but you're absolutely right. There's so much we don't understand about our own pasts, our own existence, because we're not really allowed to question or ask the questions that would give us much deeper insights into who we want to be more deliberate, more intentional with respect to our manifestation. But I can share a little bit of what I know. One of my biggest interests is in DNA mapping, etymology with respect to word origins, how much they tell the tale of our past. And there are a couple of asides I can offer for what it's worth that might be a great interest. I actually just posted about this because there was a feature on, and I'm going to say it, Ancient Aliens, that determined one of the very elongated skulls, which has been in the safekeeping of some museum, I can't remember which. The DNA, it was found in South America, I believe at Paracas, which is on the Pacific coast, was found to be of Scottish origin. This does not entirely surprise me with what I know about voyages to South America from the British Isles. There were several, but again, not really known to a lot of people. Things were found. There were complexes, temple complexes. St. Bartholomew was found. Apparently, there had been people that had come to Peru and had actually been doing missionary work well before the Spanish ever got there. Another example of how far back history goes with respect to voyages from the Near East, there is actually something called the Fuente Magna, which is a bowl that has Proto-Sumerian script on it that was found at Lake Titicaca, which is in Bolivia. Ancient complexes going back 12,000 years, depending upon what kind of dating you're doing. There is something huge that is awaiting to be confirmed in terms of how we connect together. The DNA distribution would indicate that a lot of the beliefs we have about origins of civilization are not fully informed. That's my impression. I feel very strongly about this. We keep pushing back the date further and further, now to the point we're getting into the 30 and 40,000 years ago mark with respect to when civilization really started to arise. It could go back much further than that because a lot of things still don't remain. Things have fallen apart in the interim due to exposure to various types of environmental forces. There is so much that is there that if people begin to look and ask the questions, you bring up the whole situation with respect to the Mormons, and certainly you must be familiar with Kincaid's discovery of the caves, the tunnel complexes, and the Grand Canyon. And as far as I'm concerned, the evidence is pretty clear that he did discover just that. And there was some sort of a commingling with both Chinese and Egyptians. This is stuff that just rewrites history beyond recognition. A lot of what's going on at Oak Island is going to do the same, and we're on the verge of a revision to our prehistory that is going. I think it's going to change the way we look at ourselves. I hope, anyways, and maybe it ends up transforming society in a way that we have never really been able to enjoy, especially with the technology that hopefully will allow for us to not be dictated by the finiteness of the resources, that we have resources at our disposal, that we're not worrying about a lot of the same things, yet they're sustainable, so we're not going to be doing nearly as much damage to the environment in the process.
Yeah, there's so much out there, and I know supposedly when the Mormons were coming out, they stopped at Salt Lake City, which, why the heck would you choose that place? But I guess they were just really tired. But you're saying, in the Grand Canyon, there's caves and such that have not only these Mormon texts, which are from ancient civilization before it even came out to be Mormon texts, when they came across, and they had all these different battles and whatnot, and then you're talking about, the Japanese, Chinese, whatnot in there as well. Like, I think it's just different forms of civilizations that came together and found this beautiful place and decided to hide it in this little stash there. Oh, I gotta check that out because I haven't heard of that before until you just brought it up. And I'm so curious, like, I just want to know more and more all the time, and that's why I love doing this show, because there's so many different variations and different ideals that people have that I've never heard of before, that I hear about on this show from different people, and I just want to expand my mind. I want to know more. I don't want to be muted by the government or religion or anything like that. I want to expand my mind. I want to go above and beyond, and just, I want to know everything, but at the same time, expand myself spiritually, not religiously. And we were talking about that, like, in the religious complex, you have these filters that mute you and mute so many things and say this isn't true and this isn't, even though you know within yourself that it really is because of your own experiences, and in spirituality. And so it's very interesting and intriguing. And Jason in the chat room was saying, I wonder what would happen if we reestablished the power of all these old structures. The power it could create should be greater than all we've done. And it's true, like, back in the day with the Atlanteans and the pyramids and Egypt and so many things, like, these were power complexes. We found places where lights were inserted throughout the pyramid. We found battery coils, power packs, different things that should not have existed. And when you're talking about going back in time, like thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, there's actually footprints of humans being found millions of years ago. Like, I think we were here much longer ago than we even realize.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I mean, there was an interesting thing on this particular episode of Ancient Aliens where there was a pickaxe, a hammer of some sort, that was in a strata that went back, over 100 million years ago, was the impression I got, based 30 or 40 or something along those lines. But it already had begun to petrify. It had been it had mineralized or started to mineralize. This is not something that can be happening. There's no explaining this away. So, and again, how much of it is that maybe we're looking at a situation where time is not consistent, which is what I've been saying, is that when you're dealing with time as a resonant value relative to the extent of entanglement and the density of the media where any form arises from, then maybe time ends up not being, certainly not linear by any means. You can have situations where what we perceive almost like a wormhole situation, that is 30 or 40 million years ago, actually may not be so far. That the whole notion of, you hear the term space-time, and that is definitely something which is descriptive, in as much that if you are able to shorten the distance, you shorten the time, which only is like, it's one of those situations where you say, well, duh, that's obvious. But when you stop to think about it, it really does have a certain... It's a reference point that allows for a much better understanding of how we relate physically to the rest of our environment. If you change those values by virtue of creating something akin to a wormhole, I'm of the belief that we've already discovered. Basically, I'll tell you that at least the Wright brothers anyways actually ended up discovering warp technology when they ended up achieving flight.
Wow.
And that gets into some very, very deep physics. But basically, everything, the planet, the Earth, any object that has a magnetic potential as a result of rotation, as a result of entanglement from whatever stellar source, is going to end up having a charge field. And this is actually something that, as physicists, a very unpopular physicist amongst the more conventional ones, by the name of Miles Mathis, has pointed out that flight's not possible under present circumstances if you're just looking at it from the standpoint of gravity. It's about being able to alter the charge field in such a way, and this, I think, is at the root of all sorts of different types of transit, particularly with respect to UFOs. Time is, I think, a very, very subjective thing, more subjective than we might ever have imagined. And that's a scary thing to a lot of people because it's such a reference point with respect to their experience in the physical realm that when it begins to change into something different, what do you do with that? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm actually how old then? I'm not 30 years old. I'm 75 years old, but I look like I'm 30. Okay, what do I do with that?
Tell me about it.
You see what I'm saying?
The Benjamin Button effect.
Right.
I'm actually 75 years old myself. But
right.
Well, here's the thought. I mean, basically, in another life that's happening simultaneously, maybe you are 75 because of those environmental conditions. Whatever it is that ends up dictating how we age may differ a lot. So if we have that level of entanglement, not necessarily being that person, but being related to that person, yet the same person at the same time, I mean, it is definitely mind-boggling to contemplate this. But I mean, I can be sitting here, and I won't tell you my age, but I'll say I'm 30. And I could be 75,
come on. I'm just kidding.
And that over, I can just be pointing over to another place where my life is occurring, where there is a denser expression of me relative to the environment. And I could be, because of the particular characteristics of that environment, 75 Earth years. It's just a very, very fascinating thing to think about for even just a few seconds, because it opens up a lot of really amazing possibilities that are not really feasible in the conventional context. When you look at just, okay, life, you come here, you live this long, everything is separated. It's the separation that becomes the problem, even though we experience separation profoundly up to the point of death. You know what I'm saying? When we're losing people, loved ones that are, as much as we can be intellectually aware, there is an emotional component that makes it very difficult. I deal with that. I've had an extreme amount of loss, so I can tell you, no matter how much I understand what's happening, I still feel it. I'm still affected. And just that understanding, having, contemplating the notion that there are numerous lives occurring, which we are part of to varying degrees, even if, I may not be conscious here. And if we're all connected, then it gets really interesting trying to think about it. It's almost like you can't wrap your mind around it very easily.
Yeah, and it's really crazy going back to these different establishments as far as pyramids and pueblos or, structures built. Some of them have no radiation. Some of them are blown apart and show radiation. And it makes you wonder, were these certain people taken because of their knowledge? Were these certain people taken because of war effects, because something was wrong there? Or maybe the aliens, I like to call them Allens, were fighting over them. I don't know what exactly was happening, and how did they even have that technology back in that day? How does radiation even show up? I know there's radiation from the sun, but this is an immense,
Absolutely. You're talking about very specific isotopes, decay rates. And I know what you're saying. Certainly there's the example of what's documented in various Hindu or Vedic texts talking about some of the things that would seem to be describing nuclear war in the subcontinent, India, so forth and so on. So I wouldn't rule it out as something having happened, in the Americas either. It's the whole notion of that sort of thing not happening, that technology not being available. So by virtue of that, it had to have been some sort of extratemporal factor that introduced it into the environment back then. And it's hard to say for sure. We only know that there are signatures which would indicate some sort of radioactive material having intermingled with those particular environments, including, as you're saying, the Four Corners. And it's not something your average person even knows about. And they may have heard in passing with respect to things that went on in India, but to think about it being evident in the United States is it's disturbing. There's no other way to put it. And that's because we have a very immediate context for, atomic technology, nuclear technology. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a lot of people that don't want to even think about the possibility, is that it is just too, okay, you're telling me that everything that we're most afraid of has already been utilized and destroyed parts of this country. How did it affect the people? How, what are we looking at here? There's just a lot of unanswered questions with respect to what remains after something like that, and why, and what caused it.
And that's what I was about to say. A lot of these places where there are these radiation readings, there's nobody living there anymore. So that's pretty interesting. But we actually just got a call from a 425 number. Who are we talking to?
Robin.
Oh, hey, Robin. How's it going?
Hello again, Robin. What's happening?
Yeah. This is hi, Corrine.
Hey.
So my question is, how does it look for being 2019?
It looks like you're going to be moving, literally moving. And let me see. There's something, it's an older man that's going to offer you a position in something that he's working on or doing right now, asking for your help. Let me see. This guy's, I think he's got gray hair, but he's asking for your help in something. Like, you're going to be helping him in some way, and I don't really think you want to move, but you could move if you wanted to. Like, you're going to be getting some income from this guy. Is there an older man that you know that you deal with on a daily basis?
No, there isn't. No.
Okay.
I'm thinking about that supernatural team or paranormal team that you're involved in.
With Ross Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Corrine, do you know who Ross Allison is?
No, I don't.
Well, he lives in Tacoma, but his headquarters is in Seattle, called Spooked in Seattle. He's been a paranormal investigator for over 30 years. His paranormal team is called a Ghost, which stands for Advanced Ghost Hunters in Tacoma and Seattle. And his headquarters is actually haunted.
Okay. So, I mean, will you have occasion to meet with him or do things for him?
He does hosted ghost hunts, and I've had done some hosted I have done some of his hosted ghost hunts, which are actually pretty cool. And went to some of his meetings, and I became a member.
Nice.
Robin, does he have any background on who the ghosts are? Is there any background on the headquarters at all that he's been able to determine by any means at all?
Yeah, there's a. So the place used to be a restaurant.
Okay.
So, and so there's this little girl ghost. Before I get into the ghost, so this place there's right into the pioneers of Seattle, where the pioneers built it. So it's right in the underground of Seattle.
Yeah, I've heard about Seattle's underground. I've never actually seen it. I think Vancouver has one too, if I'm not mistaken.
So anyway, so there's this little girl ghost that's around there, and so she has this there's this chair with this doll that has a broken music box, and she's able to make it work.
Does this go back to the turn of the 19th, 20th century? It sounds like.
She doesn't. He doesn't know how long that little ghost has been there.
Okay, that's what it sounds like to me, based on what you're saying. That music box. Typically, music boxes were very popular at the turn of that century, so it would make a lot of sense that she would be manipulating something like that just to kind of almost. It seems like a routine to me from what you're telling me, but I don't know how much it happened, so it's hard to say for sure.
And people that are employees there, normally have actually heard. See, he has this place called the Death Museum, and they've heard footsteps, and one part of the underground, there's been a shadow figure that has been seen, and there's another part where there's a entity that doesn't like anybody being in space.
Right.
A lot of times you're talking about basically bleed through. There's that really is a good term for it, where that life is coming through, and the key becomes really providing a context for whatever is offended by basically your presence. That's not something that normally they're going to be cognizant of, but they are for whatever reason.
Yeah. And a lot of things have happened there. Other things too, like I'm not going to say his name, but he's the person who organized the tours, and he's seen shadow figures come out of that that place where the guy doesn't like being in space and go back. And there's a place where a homeless guy was sleeping, and all of this stuff is still there. And there's a walkway where they've actually seen bolts of lights happen, and also in the woman's bathroom, there's something happened to someone where the mother was in with the little girl who was going to the bathroom, but she was crying, and this lady ghost that came up to her and said, hold her so why you're crying, and I think she also saw the ghost, and she got scared and got her daughter out of there. And she mostly appears to women, and so in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten evidence that on a ping pong ball that she has actually tapped three times.
Sounds to me like they're definitely Seattle, as I understand it, is notorious for having bleed through. It's one area of the United States, and there's a variety of different thoughts as to why. A correlation has been established. I don't know if you've ever read any. There's a book that David Cohen, who's a Scottish dowser, has written, which tends to establish, although he skews more towards a lot of the metaphysical, but there seems to be a correlation between strong electromagnetic fields and manifestations, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Because one, it's a fairly bountiful supply of something that can be used to transmute that particular type of energy into speech. In other words, that an entity would end up utilizing it, and there would be definitely flashes of light because you were doing so. You'd be changing the constituency of that particular field. For example, I know that in the case of parts of Oregon, there's very weird gravity anomalies that I think there's just something about the Pacific Northwest, parts of it, whereby it's particularly conducive to having, they're clusters, or it is a kind of a spot where various entities would gravitate towards for those reasons. So it makes a lot of sense. Seattle, I think, has got a lot of such places, as I understand it, and it sounds like it's not anything especially malevolent. The malevolence is largely, the cumulative expression or feeling of a particular thing that's going on at a given time. Fear, anxiety can manifest. It can take on kind of a life of its own, and I use that term a little bit figuratively, but it feels like it when someone comes in contact. When you're coming in close contact with something that is characterized as being a ghost or an entity, a lot of times the entanglement that is occurring is you are vicariously experiencing, almost like along the same lines as sympathetic death. You're experiencing a lot of what the other person did at the time when that information, which is still part of the field in question, did. And it's happening simultaneously, but, for the purposes of being able to really come to grips with it, you can say that it was at another time, further back in time. And what you do about that thing is basically, again, trying to reestablish a separation between the two where there isn't the bleed through just for practical or pragmatic purposes. I mean, there's a lot of ways that people go about it. If you watch Ghost Adventures, you hear Zach and the team doing different things, but it's more of a natural phenomenon than people realize, and it's just a matter of really finding a more natural context for it in turn. How do you live with that knowledge? I think in the past, and I mean, Tess and I were talking about this, as I've said before, I think communication with the dead was a fairly routine thing. Once upon a time, it wasn't just symbolic on the part of ancient cultures. They were communicating in their own way with their loved ones who had passed, but they were still entangled with. I don't know if all this, is relevant, but.
Okay, so I don't know if that makes any sense to you, Robin?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to give a reading to Sandra before the night is over. So when you guys are done now, I can do that,
Well, that was pretty much my last thought. If Robin has anything he wanted to add, if he had questions, other questions still, but otherwise, that's pretty much all I had to say with respect to those circumstances.
Yeah, there's something that happened at my house. When I was living in the basement, I can't remember what year this was. It made me really scared me. It actually made me stop. So I actually saw something right behind me with red eyes, and it looked like it had an axe. It wanted to attack me, and I physically saw this.
Is there any background where you're living that would explain, is there any sort of historical context whereby this would be kind of in keeping with it?
Yeah, some of my dad's friends were helping put in a sewer line thing, and they found Indian artifacts.
Okay, so a burial ground, perhaps.
Yeah, that would explain a lot.
And we have this, and I have this down in the basement. We have this big door that I actually really don't like looking at it. I don't want to open.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just seems that there's something in there that I probably don't want to let out.
And are you located? So you're located in the Pacific Northwest as well. So I'm guessing this is one of the. I don't know what tribe it is that you're speaking of with respect to the artifacts, but it's one of the things the Indians used to do was, for lack of a better term, when the white men arrived, and if they really wanted to kind of foul the land, they would put a curse. They would do everything they could to make it kind of unattractive, where the white men would not end up venturing onto it. Burial grounds, otherwise sacred lands. And it's possible that's what you're encountering. It's hard to say for sure, but it's a very powerful thing. The level of belief with respect and how curses come about, and it isn't even so much that the key is to believe that someone has the ability to put the curse on you. It doesn't mean automatically that you have a curse, although some people will say up and down, yeah, I've been cursed, and that can be a euphemism or they can be speaking literally, but a lot of it comes down to belief.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that someone has the power to curse you, you're going to be a lot more vulnerable than somebody who rejects the notion just because of the fact that somebody has the intent of cursing you, they can curse you. And I think that this sounds to me, based on what you're describing, that there's definitely the sense that this particular part, where you unfortunately reside, where this dwelling was built on top of, may have been cursed.
And on that note, Sir Robin, we got to let you go because we have one more reading to come up. And we only have 10 minutes.
All right.
Well, I'm so glad you called in. It was so great to hear from you, and I hope that Jim and Corrine were able to help you.
Oh, they did.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
All right.
Good night, Robin.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so Corrine, you had a reading for, was it Sandra or Susan? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just doing it in the chat room, and I'm getting nothing on her, man. I got nothing. Like I always say, sometimes I'm right on, and sometimes I'm way off, which is like normal for people, I guess. But, yeah, I thought she had something to do with her mother that was very important.
Mm-hmm.
But she says no. So I don't know. I'm not sure, Sandra. I'm sorry. And then all the other things I came up with for her that I wrote down didn't come out, so I'm not sure. But I apologize, Sandra. Maybe if you had a question, I could answer it directly or try to answer it directly, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, hopefully she'll come up with something.
You have a mother, though? Yeah, most of us do.
It happens, you know. You can't really control it.
Yeah.
She said, that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So there's no one else that wants a reading that I could try to delve into, because now I feel like I'm at my prime of getting information. It's hard to explain, Tessa, but sometimes I'm like, I'm not there, but I feel like I'm here right now, but I obviously didn't get anything for Sandra.
Yeah, Jason's like, is Sandra a mother? And she's like, yes. But yeah, it kind of popped in my head just now. You know, the other night when you and I and Dave were talking on Skype and I was picking up on something in his background, did you pick up on something too? Or, I mean, should we not talk about that because Dave hasn't said anything about that? Or, I don't know. I was really picking up on some hardcore stuffs.
I don't know if Dave wants us to talk about that, but there was a lot revealed. Well, I mean, I thought there was a lot revealed in that conversation, but I was most amazed about the number 513 for him. When I said 513, and then he told us, do you remember that, Tessa? He told us all that stuff about the number 513. That to me was really amazing that I got that. And then we were in a conversation with this other gentleman who's not here tonight, and I won't mention his name, but there was something about this gentleman's brother that was monumental in his, the whole idea, the whole MO of his life from that point on.
Yeah.
Which I kind of picked up. But no, so I don't know. I don't want to say because, I don't know if anyone wants that.
Yeah, and he's not saying anything, but I do have something in the chat room real quick. Moonlight, a.k.a. Kevin McDougal, was saying, what did Mom do with all her real jewelry? Like, he can't find it. What did she do with it?
And she's dead, Kevin?
Yes. She passed.
Right away, well, when he said that, I got that she did give it to someone, but not anyone that he would know. I feel like she did give it to someone that was important, but he might not know who it is,
Oh, Fap says he's calling.
What? Calling.
What?
Yeah.
Call in to this AM sports show.
The swear jar gets a quarter.
You're like, shh. I didn't hear the whole word. I just heard the shh. So that's all good. I'm waiting for the ringtone. I'm not getting it. Where's it at?
You must really think my name is Mike, then.
Yes.
Somewhere Boomer and Carton are, I guess, as far as he's concerned, then.
Jim, James, Michael. I'm so bad with names.
Out of New York, Tessa.
Yeah.
Mike, Boomer and Carton on fan. I've never listened to it, but it's pretty obnoxious.
So Mooney was saying, again, could be she was handing it out to people at Walmart and at the dollar store. I'm thinking, did she have any caretakers that came and took care of her? And perhaps she felt like they were special because they were taking care of her, and perhaps she gave it to them? Because they were so, I don't know, females or whatnot, and here, have this pretty jewelry because you're so beautiful and you've taken care of me, and she appreciated what they were doing.
That makes sense to me.
And he's saying that. He's saying that could be she was handing it out to people at Walmart and the dollar store.
Yeah, he said, no, she hated me.
She didn't. No.
I don't think she
Kevin,
did.
She did not leave you the jewelry because she hates you, because she certainly does not hate you. It's just that things happen in life and things like this happen,
Yeah, I don't feel like she hated you at all. I think she loved you. You just couldn't wear the jewelry the way a woman could.
Right.
And of course, we always have the person in there saying, what are the winning lottery numbers? Come on, meow.
It's so funny.
I'd play him if I had him.
Yeah.
Right?
And the thing is this, I've heard so many readers say they don't give us the numbers. They don't give us the winning numbers because, and I believe that too, because that is not what
it's not what you're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Minnie said she had dementia, but she wanted others to have it. And I could see her seeing a pretty girl or whatever. Here, take this. Or, I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
But that's not what being a psychic or a remote viewer or whatever is about. It's not about psychic numbers or golden bars or prizes or whatnot. It's about other stuff that's more important than all that material stuff.
Right. So Joe's saying he digs for crystals, and I thought he was leaving, but he's back apparently. So, what do you mean, Dave? Dave
said that. Yeah.
Shoot. Okay. What is the show? Tell us all.
It's S4. You can find it on Spreaker.com. S4. And it's hard to find sometimes, but if you look hard enough, you can find it.
Okay.
And we're coming down to our last minute. Any words of wisdom or whatnot? We still got Jim here, although he was like, man, I'm flagging out. I can't stay anymore. I was like, can you tell me about this and this and that and that? Because I'm so intrigued and interested in all this stuff, like ancient technology and the way that things are laid out. And yeah, it really piqued and spiked in my interest, so...
Well, I will tell you this, Tessa, based on conversations I've had with the author. There's a Scottish gentleman by the name of J.M. Allen who believes he has identified where Atlantis was located in Bolivia, and he has been able to correlate a lot of what Plato described in both Critias and... my mind's not working. The other dialogue, the two dialogues that basically talk about Atlantis, and he's able to find a context for a lot of the discrepancies, and there are not a ton of them by any means, with respect to what Plato's intent was in communicating, sharing the conversation he had with Solon. Long story short, he's located it to a place south on the southern part of Bolivia called Pampas Iloagas, and I am hoping at some point before I'm gone this time around that I'll be able to actually see it. I don't know when. I'd like to get to Bolivia to be able to see Tiwanaku and Pumapunku. It is some of the oldest ruins on Earth. I mean, probably comparable in age to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, 12,000 years, before the last or just after the last ice age, depending upon what part of it you're dating. But there is so much that is being revealed in terms of things we never even knew existed 25 years ago. Some of these complexes were not known to anyone, or if they were known, there was no context. They had no idea, this is Atlantis. They knew canals, there was a network of canals around that part of the Altiplano in Bolivia, but they didn't make the connection because, number one, they may not have had the frame of reference to begin with anyways. Sometimes there are Native American tribes, indigenous tribes that are aware of legends that would correlate with, and there's definitely correlations to a lot of what Plato had to say that, tie in with the Inca, tie in with the Aymara Indians that are around Lake Titicaca. Sorry, that name is one of those things where a lot of people just go, are you kidding me? Well, it means jaguar, actually, in Aymara. it looks like one. That's why if you see it from above, it looks like a jaguar ready to pounce. But the amount of roots associated with that area, as far as all the tribes in the Andes, going all the way up into Ecuador, down into Chile, there is an enormous history there, and a lot of it may be connected to the Eastern Hemisphere. But again, how is always the question. It's there. I think the answers are going to begin to be unveiled very slowly. There's a number of different people that I've communicated with, one of whom is supposed to be doing this tour. You know, the more that people indulge their intellectual curiosity, regardless of whether or not they believe necessarily in every aspect of what someone is communicating, the more they'll be able to start exercising their own paths of inquiry and start providing answers to others. And that's pretty much a lot of what I've been involved with most of my life, is that I am looking at these things. I have the most burning intellectual curiosity imaginable. So when you talk about what you are with respect to wanting to know, I can relate completely. It becomes something that just is, it's not an obsession, but it is certainly an imperative. Mm-hmm. You want to know, you want to understand, and you want to be able to communicate what you understand to other people. A lot of this is rooted in these times, I believe, in being able to really empower people to pull the veil from in front of their eyes, and with no ulterior motive whatsoever, just give them the ability to make decisions about their own lives and stop being in a position where they're forced to have other people make those decisions, where the resources are available, as a result of people in power making sure that they have control over them for whatever reason. We're watching a change in the dynamic with respect to how we're living that has a direct correlation to a lot of what's being discovered. I believe events that have occurred are about decentralizing, not to the extent of being completely isolated, or estranged, but just trying to establish a relationship that has more say, more choice in how the interaction occurs.
All right, Jim, she's got to end the show right now. The show's over, so you got to end the show.
Well, I would like to ask, where can our listeners find you, Michael, a.k.a. Jim, and Corrine?
Michael? I have no Michael in my name.
I know, but I had to say that because it's just funny to me. I followed up with Jim, and a.k.a. And Corine. Where can our listeners find you guys?
I have a page on Facebook. It's going to be observing its 7th anniversary this week, as a matter of fact, called the Human Internet Radio Project. So, and I've tried to keep up as best as possible. There's a lot of things happening otherwise in my life, but I do have some things that I want to talk about. I certainly want to address the whole notion of the Wright brothers stumbling onto warp technology. That actually is going to be the title of one of the postings that I make, hopefully within the next month, because my readers have been waiting a while for me to provide content in the time that I've been, kind of distracted by a number of different other things. That's the best place to really get a lot of the insights. I'm hoping to have more of an active profile there than I have within the last 2 or 3 months.
Okay, so anyway,
and my Hulk's going to come through. Yeah, brother.
What's that?
I said, okay, so they can find you at the Human Internet Program on Facebook.
No, Human Internet. All right, I'll say it slowly because I sometimes have to do, just for my benefit. It's called the Human Internet Radio Project.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being on tonight. Corine, how can our listeners find you?
They can find me at purpleplace.com. They can also find me at Corrine De Winter on Facebook, and they can find me at CorrineDeWinter.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to my guests. It was so wonderful having you guys on the show this evening.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thanks, Tessa. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been quite the gratifying experience being able to provide as whatever I could to people. Again, a lot of what I talked about, I understand it's not necessarily going to be familiar to some of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's new realms and territories. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else you're listening in the universe tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night on spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we own the night. Until tomorrow night, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there. You guys have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow night. You can also tune in to our after party, unless you're going to S4, Eric Cooper Show. The number to tune in to that show for the after party is 970-335-9596. 970-335-9596. You guys take care of my ewes.